All right, traders, welcome to today's market recap. This is Christian from Hertz Tribeca Trade Group, and it is Tuesday, May 31st. So let's talk about the performance for the day, and then we'll talk about some of the major themes for the day. It was a down day for the markets. Pretty much everything finished down. The Qs went back and forth between being positive and negative basically all day today. So I've got a good level to watch for the Qs to watch for tomorrow. Basically, but we are, this was month end, and month ends are a bit tricky. I didn't mention the risk disclaimer. Make sure that you go ahead and read the full risk disclaimer here, but everything that we're going through is for information purposes only. But yes, for me, I always have an issue with month-end trading days. I always, I would say nothing is always, but the majority of them are very choppy. The price action is kind of difficult. Sometimes you see some of the big underperformers outperform. Take a look at the first, the name that was on the top of the list today, pot stocks, right? They've been one of the worst performers this year. So it's kind of a confusing type day where you've got some of the really, names that have not done well actually do well, and some of the strong areas actually underperform. And also, if you take a look at some of the worst performers of the day, those were the energy stocks. Those are the best performers of this year. So I'm going to take a look at month performance in just a second for sectors and everything. But I just wanted to kind of sum up today. A couple other themes that I saw. The small caps underperformed for the day. Bonds, and I'll go through the I'll go through what these look like here, but the 30-year bond, hanging by a thread, I would say. We kind of knew that either, one bad day would kind of get this going in the wrong direction, because we were just sitting here like right around the 5 and the 20-day moving average. So yields went higher today, which is, another not great because it is a headwind for equities, but the positive here is, we're not back to the lows. We're just basically out of last week's range. Also, when you look at my screen, you've got value areas on them, right, which is based on the volume profile, volume at price. And since this is the last day of May, June will get a whole new value area, right? So that value area will be based on all of May's price action, right? This volume profile, and we put roughly one standard deviation around that activity from the prior month or this month, May, and we'll have new value areas for the month. So it looks like most likely bonds will open up inside value. That's a good thing. We don't want to see them break below, right? Then they might, end up trending lower. And again, I think that will kind of be an issue for some stocks, depending on, the magnitude of the direction if we do begin to break down again. So bonds are definitely a must watch. Here's where the yields finished up. Remember, when we look at bonds, right, we're in bond futures, or if you look at TLT, right, you're looking at the price action, and the yield is inverse relationship. 30-year yield is basically back up to 305. The 10 years up to 2.85. So that's what we have right now. Are these huge rates? And here's what the chart of the 10-year rate looks like. So we're not at the absolute highs, but we're moving in that direction. All right, so let's talk about what the indices look like. So again, on my screen, the June value area will not be lit up yet because we're still in May. So these will be lit up, and I'll send the room the levels. But so here's where we are S&P. Right, so let's start with the weekly chart. This value area is not going to change, right, for the year. There's a question that I'll try to answer, but there's a question about basically price managed to reclaim the bottom of value last week. So we're back inside value for the year. That's a good thing, right? We're not trending lower based on this value area for the year. But a question somebody asked me is, does that now trigger the 80% rule back to the upside? Remember, once we started the period which we did above value coming into the year. And once we established ourselves inside the value area, there was an 80% chance that we went from one side to the other. That was fulfilled, right? We almost got there, back in the beginning of March. We didn't, we rallied a little bit, but we did get there, and we actually went a little bit lower here. So the question that I received was, now that we're back in size, does this trigger another 80% rule? The answer is no. And you could see on the top left of my screen, it says range bound. Once the 80% trip has been complete, it could be up, it could be down. It's complete. Right, that's over for that period. So that's over for this year. All right, so that's basically, I know that's not a huge point to make here, but I thought it was a good question. So we are inside value. 4071 is the support level to watch, and then we're going to get another support level if we open up for the month above value. Right, I think that will be I think that'll be a good thing if we end up opening and staying above 41, right around 41.28. That level is going to be, then, by chance, we can kind of let this 20-day moving average catch up a little bit, go sideways a little bit, and perhaps start to move higher. Right. That's just a thought. Right. If we do break, either we start, there's a couple of things that could happen here. We could start tomorrow above value, but if we sink back below, if we sink inside the value area, what you will see me do is just reduce my risk a bit, even though, I might give it to the 20-day moving average, kind of another support line. But for the most part, I'm going to be a little bit more conservative with swing positions if we can't hold that top of value. All right. This was a good example. I was showing this in the weekend macro video, right? I was talking a little bit about what we experienced, back in here. So, back with this, big move that we had, obviously, in 2020, one of the things that I liked was that we got above value, about halfway through this month of April. And we basically stayed above there for the majority of the month. We had one kind of infraction here, but here's where that 20-day moving average came in, right? We actually held this 20-day moving average. Besides this one day, we got back above value, and we kind of just stayed clear of that. We went sideways for a couple of weeks in May, and then we went higher. Now, of course, there's a lot of things that are different here. The Fed had the markets back then. The Fed does not have the markets back now. So it might be a completely different picture, but just as an example of what I'm looking for is, to even build and go sideways, I don't think would be, a bad thing after last week's move, right? We just don't want to retreat back below, in my opinion, the 20-day moving average, and back really far back into the value area for the month, right, of June. But hey, anything goes. We're going to have, some of the things that caused some angst today was that the European inflation rates continue to climb. There were some headlines about oil. I want to talk about the move in oil today in just a second. But anyway, that's what I see for S&P. NASDAQ, I think, is, while NASDAQ outperformed today, again, month end, I'm really not taking too much away from that data point. Also notice that we kind of came back and rechecked this level back in here, which was the price action from the end of April. So again, I will have this level for you tomorrow, but again, it's going to be right at the top of value. And then last one, IWM, just to see how this is going to look like, what this looks like. Again, similar picture, so we'll know we should know fairly soon, whether or not we're going to basically start and hold above value for the month of June, again, which I view that's important, or moving back below that 20-day moving average. And then, we might get a little bit more volatility, a little bit more chop, but that remains to be seen. Let's talk about oil for a second, because energy stocks have been the biggest performer. Take a look at that candle that happened today on this announcement that Europe is going to be getting their oil from other places. Now, not gas, not coal, but just oil. But take a look at this version point of control tag. Again, I'm not drawing that in. I know some people think when they watch these videos, especially if you're a first time watching, my end of day video, this is based on the market profile. It's based on the market webs indicator. So the point of control is where the majority of volume occurs in a given period, right? And if price does not go through that, right, it leaves a red line, which is called a version point of control. The market remembers. We see this all the time. Take a look at this one too, right? So again, it doesn't necessarily mean that price takes it out and completely fades. Sometimes price can really kind of hang in there and overcome it, especially if there's decent volume, right? Decent buying pressure. But we faded from here, right? We managed. It took a couple weeks to get back above it. And then right here is another, we tagged this basically to the penny, and went maybe a little bit further here, but the market knows that that's a significant level, right? And here's what it looks like, again, 1 hour chart. So, if you look at your energy stocks, I just wanted to start there, right? The energy stocks have been by far, the best performing areas of the market this year. And, not the best looking candle. The bright side is we didn't lose the 5-period moving average in the energy stocks, right? We also, looking on the 1 hour chart and the value area for the week, right? Because this value area on the 1 hour chart is for the whole week. I would watch this 86.48 level, right? You're going to see that as well in some, I'm going to go through a couple of material stocks, right? Which is what I started, which was some of my setups going into this week, which really didn't act that well, but that's okay. Some of these things, just like this energy, you're looking at this on the 1 hour chart, these things can't go up forever in a straight line, right? They've got to check back into support. So here's where I would watch, right? And I'll show you exactly what I mean. And when we look at the one month performance, right? By the way, SPY did have a nice, that's 5-day change. So we're going to look at this column. So let me highlight that so you could see that. SPY did eke out a gain for the month, right? As I did in my trading account. I finished up about 3 to 4%. Tribeca Trade Group members will have a video tomorrow based on just a summary of May P&L, thoughts ahead, best practices, poor practices, things that went wrong. Certainly, for my trading, right? The whole idea of my trading is, hey, I'm going to be wrong. I may be wrong often. The idea is not to stay wrong, right? And to get out of positions if they're not working out. Really try not to incur any big losses, right? That's how it works with trading. And try to, of course, maximize the positive trades and try to get, the whole thing is getting more out of the positive trades. So I had I had a decent amount of winners. This happens to me sometimes. I didn't have any really, really huge winners, right? But I just had more winners than my losers, and didn't let any losers this month be really damaging to me. So I'll talk more about that in tomorrow's video. Interesting, transports finished down, right? Mid caps actually finished the best out of the major indices for the month of May. Qs actually finished down 1.6%. Right. International markets actually outperformed. EFA up 2% for the month. Right. Bonds were down for the month, 2.4%. Gold was down for the month. Right. I know last week kind of distorted things a little bit, but that's the numbers for the month. Value finished up 2.4%. Growth finished down 2.7%. Bitcoin down a lot. This is the Bitcoin Trust, down 22%. ARK Innovation down another 6.5% for the month. IBD 50. Really, it's pretty much different looking portfolio that they're managing now. A lot of energy stocks, a lot of material stocks in there. IWO and IWN. One was IWN was down was up 1.9%. IWO, that's growth, was down 1.8. So again, value outperformed both on the large cap side as well as the small cap side with IWN and IWV. IWN and IWO. Sorry about that. XOP, XLE, OIH, the three energy ETFs. Huge performance again for the month. XOP was up 17.3%, monster performance again for these energy ETFs. The solar ETF did very well last month, up 10%. Semis logged in a good month, right? Up 6.4% for the month. Interesting, a couple other areas that just were a little bit shocking. The home builders were up 4.5% for the month. Utilities, that doesn't surprise me. Clean energy, telecom, but regional banks also up. Chinese internets were up 3% last month. They outperformed. Not huge, but still better, much better than tech in the US, right? Tech was down for the month. Blockchain stocks, pot stocks, as I mentioned, they were up today, but worst performer. FANG stocks did very well today as well. They were one of the underperformers. They were down almost 10%. That's the internet ETF, so it doesn't just cover the FANG stocks. Certainly Snap and things like that brought that down. Gold miners, biotech continues to not really just not be there. I keep watching biotech to see if it can kind of turn the corner and maybe lead a little bit. Not there. We'll continue to watch and monitor. Metals and mining was down 4.6%. That's kind of a surprise to me. Let's look at this chart very quickly. But while it did come back here, I guess where we started was here, so it did finish lower than from the beginning of the month. All right, so so that's kind of the performance. I mentioned that the FANG stocks, we'll see if they can continue. I wouldn't be surprised if something like Amazon rallies a little bit more, just because you've got your resistance basically up here. Am I long this thing? No. I just think that maybe it can get to this 2480 level, but then it might fail. Right? That's a version point of control up there. So kind of something that I'm watching. Google, same thing. If you look where Google rallied into today, took out a VPOC. There's another one up there at 2339. But you could see it rallied back into the bottom of value for the month. I was long Google. I was long a small trade in Google last week. I think I took that off either Thursday or Friday for profits. So it worked well, but I wasn't pushing my luck with that. So into the 20-day moving average, into the bottom of value. All right, so let me go over, just how I managed today a little bit. I took some profits on some things, right around the open. This was this Cameco. I took a couple profit targets in this last week, but again, I didn't want to push it, right? And that's how trades have been. There's one other trade that I didn't take the target in, and I looked at it, and I kind of felt silly for not doing it. But it's still holding the 5-period moving average. I'm still long a little bit of Valero. Only have one more target, last piece of the trade to go, but perhaps I should have taken that off at 135. Definitely looked at it earlier. All right. DQ was a trade. I talked about the Chinese internet plays last week. This DQ is right at the 200-day moving average. Again, I right now I like this group. I can change because I've changed very quickly on this group, but a lot of calls went up today. An ASHR. This chart is very gappy. The reason why is because the components in this ETF are not Baidu and Baba. They're the local shares in China, right? So China's open when we're not. So by the time we come in the morning, right, the price action is done, is closed. So that's why you see a gap, because it's moving up to where China closed. There's not much reaction like in the middle, while the US market is open, because China is still closed. But it still will fluctuate based on the demand and supply, of the ETF, because again, the underlying names in this basket are closed. But someone really wanted to be long some China. There's a good amount of ASHR calls that went up. Again, much different than, let's say, KWEB, which again, very interesting to me is that this did close above the 50-day moving average. It's the first time price has been above the 50-day moving average since all the way back in February. And it really kind of just barely got above the 50-day moving average in here before it failed and went lower. So this looks a little bit different to me. right? And the moving averages kind of got coiled up here, right? Which can indicate that a decent move is coming. So I like this group. Again, right now I do. That may change, right? A couple other names, JKS had a nice day today, up about 4% for the day, right? This is another solar name, right? Here's Baidu. Again, kind of, looks like there was some profit taking in some of these areas, but that's going to have a 200-day moving average test. And it looks like the first test failed. I like this PDD, right? That's also got a bit coiled up here. I think this could kind of move up to maybe 59, right? So that's a name I'll be watching tomorrow. And JD saw some call buying today too. Even though this finished decently off the highs, did close also above the 50-day moving average. So some of these charts are a bit tough, right? So again, it's more like looking for a short-term swing in some of these names. All right, but that's the Chinese internet names, which I wanted to cover. I did stick that in the TTG trend portfolio as well. And then it was just kind of just adding to some names that, CEG was a big winner for me last week, right? It retraced back into the 5-day moving average. It's got a hold here. Didn't have a great close, but, we'll see if it can overcome. So far, that's a lower high. So if it doesn't, if it falls much lower than where it is, I would want to see it hold 60-50 and then go from there. The coal names, geez, what a volatile group, right? I was long some Arch, even though this held the 20-day moving, or excuse me, the 50-day moving average, I decided to get out of this because it failed to take out the previous highs. I was looking for this thing to break higher. It didn't do it. Sometimes I abandon these trades kind of quickly, but if I don't like what it's doing, I'm out. AMR also had a tough day, but finished a little bit off the lows. I like this chart a little bit better because at least it made, on the last move up, it took out the previous highs. All right, so it's just another couple areas of the market. Wanted to cover that one. I got involved in SQM today. All right, so again, this has been one of the strongest names in the lithium agriculture space, right? It has to, it kind of, I may have cheated here a little bit because I was looking at this at the end of the day, didn't close very strong, down 6% for the day. So I started to kind of get involved in here, but if it closes below 105, for tomorrow, if it starts to look really weak, you might see me exit that position. Have to see it stay basically above 106. For now, it's just a healthy check back, right? But, again, a little bit difficult with today's price action. It looked like a lot of winners were being sold today. AMD, right? Again, I do more day trading, names that are in downtrends than anything else. Notice where this thing stalled last time. I traded this name last time, took this thing off like right into that VPOC. It's got to get above this 104 level. Right, that's where it stalled last time at that 1 hour VPOC. It's close, right? If it can hang in here, perhaps it can build a little bit more and get up to this 113 VPOC. All right, and then the last one, the insurance group. I just noticed a lot of strength in this group as I was going through charts this weekend. So I'm long this one, right? So I'm long CB Chubb, right? Of course, there's a few others to look at this space too. What's the one that I'm thinking of? Progressive. Oops. What's the symbol for that? PGR. Right. Actually finished down today too. Was higher at one point in the day. But again, I'm seeing this strength in a lot of things. Look at the volume, by the way, today. So again, month-end stuff, clouding things a bit. All right, guys. So I'll leave it there. Again, didn't really go over too many growth names. One name I'm watching is Celsius. Back below the 200-day moving average today, fell decently. I was thinking about adding something today, but again, I don't want to add. I don't want to get too long. I think balance right now is important, especially when you kind of start the new month. All right, guys, that's it for today's end of video. Have a great night. See you tomorrow.